Picture this, it's 2016 in Rio. 4 runners are lined up on their blocks, the crowd packs the seats, and the announcers are ready to start commentating. The only difference is that these runners happen to be visually impaired. These swift athletes ran tethered to guide runners. This is just one example of athletes excelling at what is referred to as an adaptive sport. Today, we're going to take a glimpse into the world of adaptive sports and learn about some of the ways athletes with disabilities participate and compete in a variety of sports and recreational activities. I'm Yoselin Mesa Miranda, and this is Beyond Boundaries. Now, before we dive into the rest of the show, let's learn a little bit more about adaptive sports. Here's Chandler to tell us more.
The concept of adaptive sports originated as a method of rehabilitation for World War II veterans. Today, adaptive sports can be either competitive or recreational. Some athletes play just for fun, while others work their way up to a professional or Paralympic level. The structure of these sports are similar to their non-adaptive counterparts. However, modifications are made in order to make the sport more accessible. For example, the use of a smaller court and shorter net for sitting volleyball. In addition, adaptive sports can be broken down into different categories or classifications in order to ensure that players are on an even playing field with each other. Other adaptive sports include goalball, beep baseball, wheelchair basketball, blind soccer, and the new arrival, blind hockey. Even though the methods and techniques of these sports are adjusted, these athletes are just as motivated, dedicated, and passionate about their sport as anyone else.
Thanks, Chandler. Our first guest is here to tell us more about how MSU Denver plays a role in the world of adaptive fitness. Louis Morphew is the Associate Director of Fitness and Facility Operations for Campus Recreation here for MSU Denver. Thank you for joining us today, Louis. Welcome to our show. So we have a couple questions for you to know a little bit more about this. What kinds of opportunities does MSU Denver offer in the realm of adaptive sports and fitness?
Sure. So my main responsibility is around fitness, and particularly around working with people with disabilities, students, faculty, and staff on campus. We have our Adaptive Fitness Personal Training Program, which offers those opportunities at a very affordable price for students, faculty, and staff with disabilities to work with our student trainers here on campus, as well as we have our Inclusive Yoga Program that gives opportunities once a week for, again, students, faculty, and staff to be in more of an intimate setting for to do yoga.
Okay, that sounds nice. Thank you. When did these programs start, and what is the catalyst for starting these programs?
Sure. So, I took these programs over just a handful of years ago. Julie Rummel-Mancuso, who had been in our department for several years, had started the program of doing personal training for students, faculty, staff, and it included community members at that time, people with disabilities. Over the years, it's morphed into where I've made the focus more toward our students, faculty, and staff on campus, not so much of a community component, but I wanted to offer something that's a little bit different and gives everybody opportunities to be involved in fitness. Whether you have a disability or not, a lot of people like to have that accountability of working with a trainer, and so this gives everybody the equal opportunities to be able to get involved in fitness on our campus.
Nice, thank you. And what does MSU Denver have or utilize in an adaptive fitness equipment? And if so, can you give some examples?
Sure. So we have a machine which is called New Step, which is basically like a recumbent bicycle that you can use both your arms and legs on there. If you don't have use of your legs, you can use your arms. It'll help actively move your legs. We have arm ergometers for people who may be in a wheelchair to have cardiovascular fitness through just using their arms. We have several other pieces of equipment that are like cable crossover machines or whatnot that can be used by anybody, whether you're in a wheelchair or whether you're not. It provides being able to pull right up to that machine and be able to use it, being able to move it in different positions, move the lever arms and those type of things. In addition, we have different small pieces of equipment like hand straps that can be put on somebody's hands if they have trouble gripping, say a cable machine. If they have trouble gripping with their hands, that helps to assist them to be able to do that.
Okay. And how long do these sessions usually take?
So all of our personal training sessions, whether it's our adaptive fitness training sessions or just our regular training sessions, they're usually an hour in length. We also offering this semester a personal training scholarship for one student on campus who may identify as having a disability. So we've offered that, and that gives them some free personal training during the fall semester.
That's really nice. Let's move on and discuss inclusive yoga. Yoga is generally understood to be an inclusive activity where everyone progresses at their own pace. What is different about inclusive yoga?
So it meets once a week. There's no charge, so that's similar to all of our yoga classes here on campus for students, that is. But the advantage of our inclusive yoga, it's more of a small, private, intimate group, meets one time a week. We find out the health history and goals and those type of things from the participants in the program, so they've filled out some paperwork so we know what their goals are, maybe their limitations, those type of things. We bring out chairs as well, so you could do things in seated, you could do things in standing, you can do it in a chair, you can do it from the ground. We just try to make it goal-based on what the person is looking to get out of it, as well as where their physical fitness level and limitations might be. So I would say it's more individualized. Our class sizes are usually less, I would say 6 people or less. Some of our other yoga classes that are conducted in our building usually are a lot larger in size as well.
Okay, I see, thank you. And what is your vision for the future of MSU's Denver Adaptive Fitness program?
So, you know, I would like to get more students, faculty, staff on this campus involved, getting more people active in fitness, whether it be coming to just work out on their own in our fitness center where we can provide some assistance from our staff working in there, or whether they come to work out with a trainer on staff. Also looking to do some kind of unified programs here on campus that would need to have a little more student involvement, where the students would help lead that program, such as a unified basketball team, where some of the students on that team may have disabilities, some may not. It would be really student-led. That program could compete against other schools, like UNC has a unified basketball program. So those are some of the visions I see, is just trying to get more people involved and branching out and doing some unified sports here on campus.
Okay, that's a good idea. And for any students that may be watching this and are interested in the program, how can they get involved?
Sure, I think the best thing is just to reach out to me. You can stop by our office in the PE building. I'm located in PE room 108. They can find out more information from me. They can check in with me about our availability of trainers. A lot of times we work around students' class schedules. All of our trainers are students as well, so I have to work around their class schedule as well. And they can feel free to stop by, ask me more questions, or find out more about the program by stopping by my office.
Okay, thank you so much for your time today. And you heard students, if you want to get involved, he gave you all the information. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Earlier in the show, you may remember hearing a mention of blind hockey. While the sport has been played in Canada for quite some time, it is new here in the US. Tristan and Chandler traveled to Foothills Ice Arena in Lakewood to meet some of the players from the Colorado blind hockey team and get a closer look at this fascinating sport.
Hockey is a thrilling, fast-paced sport, and blind hockey is no different. And for one team in Colorado, it's a chance for athletes who are blind or have low vision to get to play the sport they love. Colorado Visionaries blind hockey team was founded in January of 2018 and has continued to grow thanks to a partnership with the Colorado Avalanche. Kent Martin is the team manager, and he got involved alongside of his son, Jeff, who plays for the national team.
My son played roller hockey throughout college, and then he was working for a couple of years, and he got glaucoma and became legally blind. And we heard about on a news story after the second Avalanche Tri-Blind hockey event. I kind of stepped forward and decided to try to give it a go, and we've kind of been building it with the Avalanche's help and with other people's helps, and now we believe that we're a very sustainable program. We have a bunch of kids and we have a bunch of adults, and we're trying to train them all. Our program is we have volunteers that come and help us every time. And it wasn't until we got kids to come out and volunteer and help us that we really saw a huge change in our kids. Kids working with adults didn't work so well, but kids working with kids, it was incredible.
With the help of Kent and a team of volunteers, players of all ages can participate, whether they've been playing for years or have never stepped foot on the ice.
Playing in the streets with like tennis balls so I can actually see the puck. I haven't really been playing actual like blind ice hockey for really more than just like 6 months or so now. I guess it was always a sport that I really wanted to play. I've always been a huge fan, but never really thought there was going to be a way for me to play. So didn't really practice it much, but being able to actually get on the ice and kind of play my favorite sport, just the best part.
I'm Cody Bear. I've been playing blind hockey since we started the program here in Colorado. I guess about a year and a half. I don't know, hockey's a challenging sport in some ways in that the way that the puck is set up to kind of follow it sometimes when there's so much noise around from other things, but it's one of those things that, you just gotta spend some time working on, and spent a lot of time over the last year and a half working on skating and kind of trying to things like that.
Regardless of skill level, each of these athletes takes their sport seriously and has a lot of fun as well. One player in particular has recently been spending his time on the ice, learning the skills needed to play the position of goalie. After you got to see him in action, he stopped by the studio to tell us more. Back to you, Jocelyn.
Thank you, Tristan. Steve Patton is the goalie for the Colorado team, and he is joining me now. Okay, Steve, so I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
The first one is, how did you become involved with blind hockey?
Well, so I've actually always loved the sport of hockey. I always grew up, even as a young kid, learning how to play street hockey and rollerblade in the court that my parents lived on and things like that. And as a blind kid, that was really important for me to learn, those types of skills. And unfortunately, I never did get a chance to play like regular organized ice hockey though until I learned about the blind hockey club, the Colorado Visionaries, and they got started in January of 2018. And that's when I first started, and that's how I learned about the sport.
Thank you. What are some of the main differences with blind hockey compared to non-adaptive hockey?
Okay, one of the biggest differences, I wanted to bring this in and show everybody. It makes a lot of noise. But this is our blind ice hockey puck. As you can tell, it's a little dented up because it's actually made of a metal. And what happens is as it hits the posts and the boards and things like that, it gets these little bites or chunks taken out of it. This puck here is one of the main differences right now in the sport. So to kind of dive into visual impairment for just a second here, there's all different types of levels of blindness and visual impairment, and in blind ice hockey, they don't separate out those divisions, and so there are some people that maybe have a little bit partial vision, and those of us like myself who are mostly totally blind, we play goalie. And so what happens is this puck gets on the ice and it rattles and makes a bunch of noise, and the only other main two differences in rules are the net is shorter, it's a foot shorter in order to keep the puck on the ground so we can hear it. And once you're in the offensive zone, you have to make one pass before you can take a shot on goal. And those are the main differences in the sport.
Welcome back. Let's pick up where we left off with our discussion with Steve Patton from the Colorado Blind Hockey Team. Thank you. What is the most challenging aspect of this sport?
Learning how to skate. Yeah, if you've never ice skated before, I would say that's the hardest thing for people to learn. And then, of course, just kind of learning to rely on your ears and other senses out on the ice too, to listen for that puck and understand where the walls are and where your goalie is and things like that. So it's so much fun.
And how much has the sport grown in the time that you've been playing?
So it's grown quite a bit here. So it's, the folks up in Canada created the sport in the 70s, and it's fairly new here in America. So I would say it's still in the grassroots stages in a lot of ways, but it's growing very quickly. And they've even started to come up with an elite team for Team USA that goes up and plays Canada a couple of times a year, which is a lot of fun.
That sounds like fun. Now let's zoom out a bit and talk about blind sports as a whole.
Oh, absolutely.
What are some similarities we might see across the board for sports adapted for blind athletes?
Ooh, so, I got to say, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of similarities. Like, for example, I used to play a sport called beeper baseball, and it's only similar in the sense that you get to hit a ball with a bat. Other than that, there's no second base, for example. The pitcher, batter, and catcher are all on the same team because the goal is for the pitcher to essentially, pitch the ball to where you can hit it. And then there's no second base, so you either have to run to first or third base, and you don't know what base is going to be beeping. So that's one sport. There's a very popular sport amongst the blind community called goalball, and that was created back in the 40s and early 50s after wounded soldiers would come back from the wars, and they now that's a Paralympic sport, and that's a lot of fun too. Should I tell more about the sport?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's played on a court about the size of a basketball court. It has tactile lines taped down on the floor, and there's 3 players on either end, and you take a ball, and the objective is to roll the ball past your opponents at the other end, and that gets very competitive and a lot of fun. There's adapted track and field, there's adapted swimming, judo, which is a martial art that I actually have competed in also. So, there's a lot of ways that things can be adapted. I would say that for anybody with any sort of disability, to find that community and find a, way to be involved in sports, I think is really fun and really important to do.
Yeah, sounds good. And now, what about blind hockey do you think is unique compared to other blind sports?
I would say what's unique about it is, I had mentioned earlier about the visual acuity and things like that for blind people. All other blind sports, you either wear a blindfold or you get broken up by your visual classification. In blind hockey, they don't have that implemented quite yet. So that's probably the biggest thing. As you can tell, as this puck just sits here on the table, it's not making noise right now. But on the ice, of course, it always is making quite a bit of noise. But for example, I would be at a disadvantage to somebody who could see a little bit better than me because, when this puck comes to a stop. So, I would say that's what makes it most unique. I personally hope to see them either have people wear blindfolds, which I think would make this sport even more exciting. 10 totally blind people going in one direction for something, that'd be a lot of fun. And then, and then to have the higher partial vision people play against each other. But that's the probably the most unique part about it. And how loud it is. It's just, hockey is such a loud sport.
Right, everyone just running around.
Yeah, and there's a lot of communication, a lot of yelling, yeah.
And finally, for anyone watching this who may want to get involved with adaptive sports, either as a player or a volunteer, where would be a good place to start?
Well, okay, so specifically for the Colorado Visionaries, we have a social media page on our Facebook, the Colorado Visionaries Blind Hockey Club. If you want to get specifically involved with us, that's how you would do that. If you're looking to be involved in any other sort of sport or community, I mean, I hate to simplify by saying, the internet is a powerful tool, but, Google what it is you're looking for. Blind sports in whatever area you're in, or, wheelchair sports, or whatever it is you're looking for. Just be a great way to plug into, that community and other people that are dealing with, the types of things that you're dealing with I think is really important to do too.
Well, thank you so much for all the information you gave us today, and thank you for your time with answering all these questions.
Absolutely.
For us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back once again. Now, before the show comes to a close, I want to thank our guests today, Louis Morphew and Steve Patton. Truthfully, we have only scratched the surface of the world of adaptive sports. There are dozens of other adaptive sports and fitness programs that we did not cover here today. Finally, if you take one thing away from today's show, let it be this. We often view the need for adaptive equipment as a setback. We see vision loss as a barrier to a full life. I hope that today you have not only learned a little bit about adaptive sports, but that you have discovered how athletes with disabilities can move beyond what we often see as boundaries. I'm Yoselin Mesa Miranda. Thank you for watching.